Alrighty, good morning. Actually, good evening, everybody. This is DJ Renee, and I have another energy read for you. Um, so I do have a channeled message just before we get started, and that message is that it's okay to rebuild. So sometimes we may feel scared to do something again, and if especially if we put a lot of effort into whatever it was that we did the first time. But it's just letting you know that it's okay. It's okay. You want to make sure that you are somewhere that you want to be. That's it. That's all. There's no other. There's nothing else to it. But I'm just gonna go ahead and just get a few cards pulled. First card out was the Temperance card, and it did come in the upright. Temperance. So this is all to do with balance, making sure that you are being sensible, making sure that you are finding meaning, finding your purpose. And so ideally, if you're needing to rebuild, it might be because you're trying to find that happy medium, that you're trying to find that happy place, so to speak. You could be a Sagittarius. But you've honestly have been really patient, and I think that's why the building, that's why it's what am I trying to say here? That's why you are scared of rebuilding when you need to, because it's like, man, I've already put in all of this work. I don't want to have to do it again. But when it comes to you, you're worth doing it over and over and over and over again. And that's something that maybe you needed to hear. Yeah, you don't want to get in your own way, allowing just you not really understanding yourself, understanding who it is that you are, stop you from being able to build what it is that you're trying to build, or keep you staying somewhere that you don't want to be. It's just not okay. It's going to create a lot of disappointments, and honestly, that's just not something that you need. Even though some things could be not as you are wanting it to, it's God's protection. He knows exactly what's going on. He knows what's sees things that you're not able to see. And so this is why it's important to trust. You're somebody that wants to do something different. Okay? So allow the changes to happen so you can, yeah, you don't just take somebody's word for it, like you challenge. There's nothing wrong with challenging anybody. Challenging is actually okay, because it ensures that you understand what it is that you're speaking about, what it is that you're whatever the idea is. It just ensures that because you kept on until, and that's important. And I definitely commend you for that. You're even somebody that goes into stuff blindly, And that is extremely important because, and I don't want to get it messed up. So you have blind faith, meaning you understand that you're going to be taken care of. And you're doing it anyway, although you can't see what's at the end of the road type of a thing. But what's wrong with that? What's wrong with actually being able to utilize the faith that you claim that you have? Sometimes you just gotta be your own friend. You gotta big yourself up, hype yourself up rather, for the things that you can do, for the things that that you are about, and simply just literally just trust yourself. Yeah, you need to give attention to yourself. And that's okay. A lot of times people don't think that it's okay for you to put time into you. But there's nothing wrong with you putting time into yourself. In fact, that's paramount for your healing, for your growth, for you just simply being who you are. You have fairy energy. You are just an absolute lovable person. You have magic in your fingertips, and so that's why I'm saying that if you need to rebuild, if you need to do something again, it's all right. Because you have the magic wand right here. And it's all about what's in our mind. What we're thinking about, what we think we can do. And if we're blocking ourselves from being able to do it. Because at the end of the day, you got blessings that is coming once you do what you need to do. And so let's just see what else we got going on in this energy. But definitely, continue to do what you got to do. Don't give up on yourself. I will be a broken record saying don't give up on yourself. Do what you got to do, because at the end of the day, it's motivation for somebody. It's motivation to get up again. To say, I understand that I sat around here and I tried this 1,000 times, but let me go ahead and try 1,001. Because on that 1,001 try, what if I finally get it? What if it finally is my time when I try at that time? We can be our own worst enemy. We really can. And it's just simply because we don't believe in ourselves, or because we've sat around here and we've listened to things that people have said to us or projected on us. And it's just simply not true. It's just not true. Maybe you haven't heard. Maybe you haven't heard anybody tell you that it wasn't true. All right, I'm going to get another deck because apparently this one doesn't want to tell me anything. But maybe maybe you are who you are. Okay, let's see here. I keep looking over here, and what came out was just a lump sum of money, and of course we all can use a lump sum of money, you know. So that's not something that's going to be for everyone. However, what I can say is that, you know, when you're putting out the correct energy, when you're doing what it is that you need to do to be the best person that you can be, to build your empire, to, you know, your creation, how can it not come to you? How can you not have it? And so even if it's a lump sum and you don't have it right this moment, you know that, hey, as long as I do the work, as long as I put in my efforts, as long as I know that I may go through sometimes where I have to suffer, just go through some things that I don't necessarily want to do, but it's okay because I understand what's coming at the end, and that is something that's important. I'm going to split this deck because what? Got time. So I went in to repair my destiny. You have to go within yourself. You have to look within and say, am I okay in here? Is everything okay? Am I functioning the way that I need to function? Am I thinking the way that I need to think? Because I'm out here. I'm out here around people. I'm out here around, other people can see me. I can see people. We're influencing each other, and I gotta make sure that I'm okay. So a part of me building a foundation for myself is also me building myself as well. Your superpower is that you know that you could do the wrong thing, but you choose to do right. So you don't have that type of you're not that kind of person. And because of it, you're a superhero in a sense that, you're a hero to somebody else. For instance, it may seem like it's nothing, but like one time I was in Wawa, and if you know, you know. But I was in Wawa, and this guy dropped his money right in front of me, or right behind me. I think he was in front of me. Yeah, and so he dropped his money, and of course I picked it up, and I'm like, hey, you dropped your money. And he's like, what? Like, what? Like, nobody ever does that. Like, let me buy your stuff, So he bought my stuff, and of course I'm like, it's your money, but how many of us think like that to where we're not trying to get over on somebody? And so in that case, I was a hero to that person. Why? Because first of all, it was his money. Second of all, I don't know what he was planning to do with that. We don't know people's situation and what they have going on. We could have been a villain in the story simply by trying to get over, trying to be just a messy person. When somebody needs your help, it's important that you help that person. I don't know who needed to hear that, and I don't even know where that came from, but that's important. Don't just look at people go through things and you have the ability to help. It's one thing if you don't have the ability to help someone, but if you have the ability to help someone, what are you doing if you see that they need your help? If they see that they need your assistance? Like, literally, no. I'm not going to watch somebody get unalived in front of me. I'm not going to watch somebody sit around here and be tormented, be treated like they're absolutely nothing when I know that there's something. When I know that there's something. And so it's like, we have the ability to be better if we choose to be better. We have the ability to make our space better. We have the ability to make our lives better. We have the ability to simply just build and create whatever it is that we want to create. We just cannot go ahead and get into our, we just got to get out of our own way. Got to remember to continue to trust ourselves. Because at the end of the day, we only have one us. We don't have a clone that can say, hey, you go ahead and you do this, you live this life the way Sally and Joe want you to live this life, and I'll go ahead and I'll live my life. No. You have to sit around here and live your life the way that you want to live your life. Because you only get one. And if you choose to give it up and allow other things to influence how you live your life, that's on you. I don't know who needed to hear that, but it's on you. So make sure that you're making the correct decisions. You're doing the right things. I mean, I know I say this all the time. It may come off broken record-ish. It may come off annoying. But if you're not doing what you need to do, you're not doing anything. That's just the bottom line. One of the things, oh, wow. So, as you're building, as you're creating, one of the biggest things that you want to do is protect your energy. For whatever reason, people, well, I'm not going to say for whatever reason, because, I believe that people have entity attachments and there's things that they allow to come into their space that affects them and causes them to do the things that they're doing. But you got a lot of people that are in your energy, and you have to protect your energy. People will cross the line if you give them an opportunity to cross the line, and so you have to be the one to literally say no. Literally say no. People may fall out about it, but so, who cares? How you feel is irrelevant in regards to my feelings, and that's kind of how we have to move sometimes. Because when you're trying to manifest and you're trying to build, you're trying to bring in the abundance that you want for yourself, what time do you have for any riffraff? What time do you have for any kind of craziness that anybody wants to bring your way? If you're wanting to have these things take place, you got to do what you need to do so that you can get your new beginnings, so that you can have your adventure. We look at, it bothers me that people kill, my bad. It bothers me that people unalive others when they're jealous, when they don't have something that the other has. For one, what makes you think that everybody is deserving of the same thing? That's number one. Number two, what makes you think that just because you don't have it, that it's not something that you can't get? So we have to truly understand how to control our emotions. Our emotions are not us. So what that means is that it's kind of how when I spoke about an entity. So just like in business, right? An entity is a company. You set up that company because you don't want to be liable in anything. You want this company now to be liable. So that's how that works. And in the same way, emotion is an entity in itself. So if it's not you, why are you letting it take over you? If you're not anger, don't be angry. If you're not sadness, don't be sad. Now, understand that there's negative and positive emotions. Of course, you can let joy overcome you. Of course, you can let, happiness overcome you. But catch what I'm saying. You gotta make sure that you continue to get in your quiet space, to do what you have to do so that you can retain the mental clarity. You're literally a warrior. This is a whole battle, and you've been disciplined in doing it and getting there. And justice is on the way, and so it's just about continuing on, understanding that it's right around the corner. You cannot allow yourself to fail. You cannot allow yourself to give up. Because at the end of the day, what you want is your happiness. You want your divine love. You want your, the home that you want. You want the cars. You want the type of life that you want. You want the type of friends that you want. And because these are all things that you want, they are things that you can achieve, but you have to build it, And so again, it goes back to saying, don't be afraid of building, of rebuilding, and building again if you need to. Because sometimes it's necessary. I don't always want to stay where I'm at. And so the fact that I have the ability to rebuild is paramount for me. All right, y'all. I am the Ja Renee. I thank you so much for listening. Follow me. Like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And I hope you have a great day.